Okay, am I live? All right, I think I'm live now. Perfect. So, I wanted to jump on really quickly and talk about the madness inside our heads. And not to talk about it in theoretical way, right? I'm just going to tell you my experiences. I'm going to tell you how I have turned madness into methods. And that's really what I want you guys to do as well. So, methods, what does that mean? That to me means being able to channel and funnel the madness somewhere, right? If someone is a little bit mad, to me, that's a concentration of energy. That's potential. So I was living in fight or flight for most of my life, extremely hot body and wondering what to do with that, right? Wondering why I felt so uncomfortable and so inflamed and so tense all the time. And especially when it was my turn to speak in front of the class, right? You guys all know that feeling, going around in a circle, passing the book around, or teacher picks on you and says, hey, say this in front of everyone. I know everyone dislikes that, or most people do, unless you're one of those, eccentric performer kids. Maybe you're one of those, right? Definitely was. I hated it. And I used to dread going to school. I used to dread being the center of attention. And I didn't really grow out of it. So it continued through my life where I would dread being the center of attention, right? So my form of madness was that there was all this jumble inside my head and worry and living in fear ultimately, right? So maybe you have your version of this. You have your version of something that you find quite challenging or have found challenging. So what the body does, and this is a bit of the science behind it, what the body does when there is a fight or flight occurring is the heat is raised, right? It's like a volcano. What the volcanoes do, it's something's trying to shoot up and out ultimately, right? Our spine and the way the energy system works is energy moving and it's trying to shoot up and out and be expressed. That's natural, just like a volcano. That's natural, just like a volcano, for it to come in and then go out, right? But if it doesn't, what happens to the volcano? It's like lava's trying to come out and there's a cap on top. The lava just goes in and it stays inside, and you know that feeling when you're keeping something in and then it gets pushed down. For me, it lived in my stomach. So I had digestion problems. My heart didn't even go there. The energy didn't really go there. Just down in my stomach and tension, right? Just stayed in there as tension. So that created a madness state for me. I'd be tense or angry over nothing or angry at myself, right? So eventually I started discovering methods, which is the title of this live, methods for channeling that energy. So the first thing for me was bodybuilding and yoga, right? Actually, let's start with bodybuilding first. It was bodybuilding first. So I lifted very heavy things. And to some people, it's kind of a crazy activity to do, right? I've met yoga teachers and very Zen people who are like, why do you want to lift those heavy things? There's no need for that. You can just be Zen and chill out. I didn't know that at the time. All I knew was lift heavy stuff, work my muscles, and the energy gets dispersed, right? It gets out of me at least. There's a release at least, right? So that's one method that I had. Um, and then I got into things like running, boxing, CrossFit, which allowed me again to use my body whenever there was all this tension. So let me release it, let me use it somehow, right? Using it. So it doesn't say stored in the stomach. We don't want to store energy and let it rot in there. Because what I learned is it ends up turning against me, right? It's some pent up tension. So I think like boxing are so popular, right? Let me punch stuff. Yeah, it feels good. So there's methods for releasing energy and to channel energy. Maybe you can relate to those. But then I got into yoga. I always laugh and say, I went into that class because I fancied the girl that was going. And it was my only motivation as a man, as a young man, right? But that class changed my life because for the first time, this madness in my head, I was able to move it into this state of calm, right? Not through bodybuilding methods, which is very active and like a lot going on, right? A lot of tension sometimes for the body, extra tension, sore muscles. But yoga allowed me to release and to move this energy from the stomach area and wherever it's trapped and blocked and disperse it around through my arms, through parts of my body that I haven't even discovered at that time. So another method that I discovered, and maybe you try this as well, is slow breathing and getting into the body. So useful, so useful. And again, it's not like saying, hey, you must do this, because this is what happened to me, right? I became addicted to all this stuff. I was like, okay, let me go for a run. Let me go and lift weights because I feel tense. I got to do yoga. I got to do this. And it became I got to do this thing, right? These methods became almost like drugs to be addicted to, you know? And I'll see this all the time. People will be like, I want to beat my personal best on my run, and I'm gonna go for a run because I feel tense. And if those are the only methods, it's like having a toolbox with a hammer, and that's it, right? Having a toolbox with a hammer. All the madness is used into one hammer and just start whacking things all day long, right? Again, nothing wrong with it, but I want you to realize turning this energy into something else is what alchemy is, right? So it could either be I let this energy release through this bodybuilding, through this yoga, which is also useful. I still do these things, specifically. I do it with precision or purpose, and I might get into that in a moment. Instead of how I used to do it, which was just tense, release, 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 right? No other methods. The the method that I want to invite you guys into is if there is madness moving through your mind and your body, then sometimes that's actually a sign that there's a calling. There's a knock on the door, on the chest door, but it's knocking on the chest door, saying, "Hey, can you open this up? I'm in here. I'm in here. Can you please open this up? Can you let me out?" That's what I discovered. All the tension, all the madness, all this stuff that people will just say is my trauma and all the things I have to get rid of. How about this? What if all of that madness in the mind and racing thoughts and tension in the body, what if that's a knocking? That's a knocking. There's something in there saying, hey, can you please open up? I've been in here for your whole life, actually, sometimes. That's how it was for me. I've been in here your whole life, Raj. Are you going to please let me out? If you don't, I'm going to keep knocking harder, and then you're going to experience that as tension, right? So when I started discovering that this madness was actually some sign and something beautiful was there, it changed everything. It changed my entire story about myself, right? It changed everything that was painful. And I started discovering, wow, okay, something's in there. So, something's in there. People will have their own descriptors for this. Spiritual awakening. You know, what the hell does that even mean? You know, people know me as the logical yogi, right? I might not use all these fluffy words, but you can if you want. I'd rather just say something's knocking on the door. This makes sense, doesn't it? There's a door here. There's a physical body. There's a heart. There's a soul. Maybe we might even use the word soul sometimes. Something's knocking. There's a felt sensation. So I started listening, and that became another method. Okay, let me let this thing out. Let me listen. There's a child in there, almost a golden form on me, creative, fearless, powerful. I want to go down that route. So I started discovering that, yes, yoga and bodybuilding, I still do those things, lifting weights, but I do them with way more precision and for purpose now. Instead, I do it to allow energy to effectively move through my body. So my body's now a vehicle, right? Again, the whole story is my body has become an empowering tool that I can use rather than, hey, I gotta release this tension, and of course tension does get released. So listen to what I'm saying carefully, right? Tension does get released, but instead now I'm using my body as a vehicle that supports me to let out that thing that I mentioned. It's like there's knocking on the door, and I can't unlock the door unless my energy system is flowing effectively, right? And that's why I wrote the book, The Power Centers, to try and explain in the simplest way that we have an energetic system. It doesn't have to be all these words like, hey, there's a spiritual portal inside of you. Again, nothing wrong with that. Those are great words. I might use them sometimes. I want to keep it so simple to say there's a system in here. There is a methodology, right? There's a methodology of how to turn the madness in the mind and the body intention and desires and heart stuff into usable tools. Because I remember at one point, someone gave me a definition of a yogi. They said a yogi, there's an Indian guy who told me this. He was like, Raja Yogi is someone that uses everything. Everything. And that was early on in my yogic journey, right? And I started discovering everything can be used as methods. My body, the foods I eat, words I use, how I move, the sun. Sun is usable. Scientifically, it's a tool. I can use it. Wow. There's a method for using the sun. Yogis will tell you this. All sorts of Aboriginal cultures will tell you this as well. Sun, use the sun, use the moon, use the foods, use everything. And madness turns into something useful, right? So I want to leave it there. I want to keep this short and sweet. Just to say to you, if you ever experience some kind of tension or you don't know what's going on, that's a sign. It could be a sign. I'm not going to be attached to that as a belief, but you tell me, maybe, is there something knocking? Could you be more effective with how this system of this body is working, right? Because then madness, chaos, turns into something useful rather than something I got to bat away and be against. Right? I don't want to be against anything that's occurring here. If I'm against something that's occurring here, the thing that I am living in, that's chaos. That's even more chaos. I want to use all of this discomfort. I want to use everything that's going on, and I want to transform that into something useful, right? So that's my little share for today. Hope that inspires you and write something underneath. if you got something from this, you watched this whole thing and you heard a sentence or you felt something that connected, put it in the comments below, and I will see what you wrote, and I'll be happy to share more. So, leaving it as that, 15 minutes, good time to end this, and have a lovely day. And remember, any madness going on, chaos, that's great. You have to transform that, right? So there's energy. Energy can be used. Light bulb is energy. Everything is energy. Can we use it? I don't want to waste it. Like when my mom says, don't waste your food. I don't want to waste anything. I don't want to waste tension inside of me either. I want to use that as well, right? That's my invitation to you. And it's a whole different way of looking at things. And this is the Raj way. These are the things that I want to bring to you guys. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Let's end it there. See you later.